All right, well, we will get started with the voter form for the Fargo School Board. I want to welcome everyone in attendance today and thank all the candidates for attending. My name is Ashley Ladberry-Hirchena. I am the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. Works to increase the understanding of major public policy issues. So the format for today's form is all of the candidates are going to get to do a 2-minute introduction, and then we will start asking the questions from the audience. And for questions, hopefully everyone was given some cards when they walked in. If not, there's some here in the back, or Barb would gladly hand some out to you. So if you need a pencil also or something to write with, she can cover you there too. So you can write those questions down and then just hold them up, and Barb will bring them up to me, and we'll try to work in as many as we can as we go through the evening today. And then every candidate will be given, we'll get 1 minute to answer each question, and then we'll do a final wrap up at the end of 1 minute. And we will, for the introduction, we'll start with Jennifer Benson, and then the first question will go to Sandra, and then so on, so that way everybody gets a chance to start once and hopefully finish once as well. Rachel is going to be timing us down here, so keep an eye on Rachel. Other than that, I want to thank also the City of Fargo for allowing us to use the facility here today, and then also for helping us with the filming of it, and it will be replayed on public access, I know, kind of throughout the next couple weeks here as we move towards the election. All right, I think that's all the housekeeping things that we have. So Jennifer Benson, if you would start us off, please.
Sure. Thank you, Ashley. And do I have to press this on, or is it on?
I think you're on.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. My name is Jennifer Benson. I have served on the Fargo School Board of Education for the last 4 years. I'm a Fargo native. I'm a product of Fargo Public Schools and a graduate of Fargo North High. I have a degree from MSUM in communications. My husband Mitch and I are the proud parents of 3 daughters in Fargo Public Schools. Our youngest is in elementary, and our 2 older daughters are in middle school. Additionally, I have been working for a division of Johnson & Johnson companies for the last 17 years. Leading up to the school board election of 2014, I was a member of the FPS Facilities Long Range Task Force, an active member of the PTA, and president of the Kennedy Neighborhood Association. I come from a family of educators. I am passionate about many things, and I will continue to work to understand the views from all sides on issues affecting schools and children. I believe that collaboration and transparency are the ways to achieve quality results. My business acumen, natural leadership qualities, desire for Fargo to have the highest quality education system, along with my experience, all led me to pursue this position 4 years ago. I have been honored to serve as a member of Fargo School Board. The more I have learned, the more effective I have become. Vote to re-elect me, and I will continue to advocate for your kids, our staff, and taxpayers.
Thank you. Sandra Calhoun.
This one's closer. Yeah, that'll be fine. I am Sandra Calhoun. I grew up on a farm just south of Galesburg, North Dakota, and graduated in 2004 from Northern Cass High School. So I'm not a product of Fargo Public Schools. However, my son, who is 6 years old, currently attends Lewis and Clark Elementary. I felt very confident and comfortable when I applied to be a candidate. I knew that I wanted to make a difference for our future, for our children, and I felt that I could, from a different perspective, maybe provide some insight as well as ideas for, as Jennifer mentioned, collaboration, as well as getting parents more involved. I'm not a member of the PTA, but that is just because I didn't find out how to be one. I did have some experience being a leader at my past employment. I've been a waitress for 8 years, and I was crew chief at IHOP for 3 of those years, and I was a trainer at the Village Inn in Moorhead for the last 4 years. Currently, I'm the assistant manager in housekeeping at the Holiday Inn Express, and I am responsible for many of my own tasks as well as ensuring that everyone is doing the assignments I have given them. I have a passion to serve, and I I feel that accountability for results is really important. Accountability is just more than doing your job. It includes an obligation to make things better, pursue excellence, and do things in a way that further the goals of our community. So that being accountable would mean that I'm able to answer for my actions. Relentless improvement is something else I would always want to focus on. It gives us the energy and opportunities to celebrate what we're doing well and envision where we'd want to go. Personally, my son is a special needs child. He has high-functioning autism. And so from that perspective, I feel like maybe Fargo Public Schools could improve as well. So that's why I'm running.
All right. Yamal Day.
Well, thank you for pronouncing my name. My name is Nyamal Day. Probably most of you never know that I can run here today. I came from a town, I came from South Sudan. It's a lifelong legacy. You know, you can never really imagine being in this type of country and be able to sit here today, so I'm honored. I will tell you why I'm running for Fargo School Board. I'm running for Fargo School Board because I want to make sure that our schools, students, professionals are prepared for the future. I want our students to be college ready. I want to be well equipped to overcome any kind of situation. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Any kind of situation that come our way. I want our students to be ready for the real world. I am committed to tackle these issues head on. I'm not doing this just for my daughter. I'm doing this for every student in Fargo-Moorhead area too. Probably for most of you guys, you not know. First and foremost, I'm a mother. My daughter, her name is Malaika. It means that angels. She is the life of my heart. And she starts school here, it's in kindergarten actually. She was born in Fergus Fall, but she starts school here. When I'm elected, there are certain things that you all have to understand when I am elected representative for and diversity, after school programs, supporting teachers, bullying and safe schools. These are most important to me. Another thing that you all have to understand is building I am a nonprofit organization has taught me a great deal. It has taught me that with hard work and determination, anything is possible. Well, I'm sorry, I guess I've ran out of time.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca Knudsen.
Good evening, and thank you to the League for hosting this forum. I'm Rebecca Knudsen, and I'm a candidate for re-election to the Fargo School Board. I want to address three groups: our students, teachers, staff, and administrators, and our broader community members. First, to our students, the election for Fargo Board of Education is about you. You're the entire reason Fargo Schools exists. So whether you're in kindergarten or a graduating senior, born in this community, new to this community, whether you're a Native American, new American, or just an American, whether English is your first, second, or third language, Fargo Public Schools is yours, and we're here to serve you. I took a recent trip to the National School Boards Association annual conference, and that helped drive that point straight home for me. And I have to tell you, there is nothing like having 6,000 or approximately 6,000 fans of public education to jazz me up to run for re-election for school board. At the conference, we all attended a variety of sessions, but ones I attended included conversations on a year-round school calendar, how to maximize student representation on the board, how to build campaigns to influence state policy, and school safety. And there was a session led by some of our own school administrators on music in our schools. The teachers, staff, and administrators of Fargo schools are professionals, and they are rocking it. They do work on behalf of the most important constituents, our children in our community. I want to make sure that the students and the teachers and the staff and administrators understand that I know and value I value the thoughts and the cares and the concerns. I also want to make sure that the community understands that I have a deep value for community input as we continue to work to build and improve upon our district's current process of public engagement. Having lived in the Clara Barton Hawthorne neighborhood for over 20 years, and now in North Fargo, I've been active in a variety of neighborhoods throughout the community. My daughters attend Ben Franklin Middle School. My son is a graduate of Fargo South and currently attends UND. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Nelson.
Hi, I'm Brian Nelson, and I was born out in Washington, and my parents moved me to Stanley, North Dakota in my 7th grade year. Quite a culture shock. And I graduated from Stanley High School. 1984, went to Minot State University, kicked the football for the Beavers, and got a teaching degree, elementary education, and 2 minors, driver's education and physical education. And then I taught school for 3 years. I was elementary principal for 5 years. In the last 21 years, I was school superintendent out in Lewis and Clark School District, the towns of Berthold, North Shore Plaza, and North Shore Plaza. And so we are called the Lewis and Clark School District. I retired and moved to Fargo. In that time, in 2015, I married, and we have 10 children together, 3 of which still go to Fargo Davies. 2 of them do, and 1 of them goes to Discovery. I believe the reason why I'm running is I've seen a lot of board meetings, and I've been around education a lot. I've been to the North Dakota School Boards Conference the last 22 years, both in the fall and the spring. I can tell the Fargo Public School Board, you guys have done an amazing job, and I've kept track of you for the last 22 years about what you've done, and you should be proud of the things you're doing for our kids. I'm proud of the schools. 3 things. All children are going to receive a free and appropriate education from 3 to 21. We're going to utilize our resources, and I want to work with the city and the park and the businesses as our city continues to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Nelson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the League for hosting this event. My name is Robin Nelson, and I completed 3 terms on the Fargo School Board, and I had the absolute pleasure of working with Jennifer and Rebecca and David up here and some school board members that you see in the audience. It was a life-changing experience, and I would like to seek another term. I am a product of Fargo Public Schools, as are my children, from Longfellow, Bannon North, and Clara Barton, Hawthorne, and Carl Ben, and now South. So I've hit about half of the district. My real job, my full-time job, I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club in the Fargo Youth Commission, where I have the privilege of leading the most high-performing Boys and Girls Club in the country. We serve over 4,300 kids every year, and all for children in Fargo Public Schools. I'm seeking another school board term for 3 big reasons. Kids. Everything I do in my life is devoted to helping kids become self-reliant adults that will be contributing members of society, and our workforce, everything we do is for kids. For my job as the CEO at the Boys and Girls Club, where I work with these kids on an annual basis, on a daily basis, I get to see things that a lot of people don't, and that is the greatest gift that I've ever had. I serve on several boards, like the FPS Foundation, Fargo Police Department's Badges of Unity, their new youth investment board that I just found out I'm on, been voluntold for. I'm an honorary lifetime PTA member, and then the positions to which I'm appointed. Done. served the 3 terms on the school board. So thank you.
Thank you. And David Paulson?
Hi, my name is David Paulson. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us here tonight, and it also gave me a great reason to quit working in the yard. I am a retired teacher. I taught science for 35 years, finishing up in West Fargo. My kids went to Lewis and Clark, and south. I will have grandchildren in Hawthorne, Centennial, Lewis and Clark, and Carl Ben Eielson next year. So I have a very, very strong reason for wanting to see Fargo maintain the incredible education that we're currently offering. If you would have asked me 4 years ago when I first ran why I was doing it, I would have said it was primarily to make sure that my grandkids received an education that would prepare them for the real world. After being on the school board for a very, very short time, you realize you now have about 11,000 kids that have become number 1. And that is my 100% priority. We are going to have the best school that can possibly exist. And I think that we've come a very, very long way in doing that. I'm excited by the fact that we just hired a brand new superintendent. I hope that I'm reelected so that I'll have an opportunity to work with him. And there are so many things that we're doing well, but there are so many things that we can do even better. There's been a lot of talk about violence in classrooms, the special needs issues that we have. Fargo is making great strides in that, in the direction of solving those problems. And I'd really like to be around for the next 4 years to make sure that we finish these jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rado Twardwarski.
That's good. Good evening. My name is Radomis or Rado Twardowski. And thank you very much to the League of Women's Voters for having us here. And it's a privilege to square off in this very highly qualified group of candidates. I am 58, cardiologist, physician, cardiologist, retired from hospital and clinic work, decided to conclude my hospital work, and have a lifelong history of service and leadership, served on some committees, including bylaws committee at the hospital. But the reason I decided to conclude that work is always in the practice, I wanted to focus on health, wellness, early prevention, building things from the ground to keep them well rather than maybe chase problems later. And I think I'm just excited about serving the younger generation as well as the older generation. So I feel that the new stage in my career is a true vocation and a chance to approach things the way I desired. Focused on wellness now, have owned company, promote wellness fitness quite a bit. We'll try to complete first full marathon here in Fargo in a couple of weeks, so I was excited about all the questions to park collaboration and park board members. And my family is mostly in Minneapolis, wife, and 2 of our 3 children. Our middle son is who attended Concordia, is now in Washington, D.C., and I'll be a proud first-time grandfather in about 5 months. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Stacy Piowski.
I grew up on a small farm an hour south of here. My dad raised cows, and my mom stayed home and cared for us 6 kids. We didn't have a lot of money, but my parents were frugal and lived within their means, providing us with everything we needed. They believed in hard work and education, passing those values down on me. I was encouraged to be in many activities, from band and choir to speech and drama to basketball and cheerleading and everything else in between. I remember writing essays for all kinds of applications, from Girls State to college scholarships. I worked 2 jobs during college and saved my money. 20 years ago, I moved to Fargo and married my high school sweetheart, Jerry. We are both small business entrepreneurs. Jerry is a carpenter and built our home. I am a child care provider, which allows me to work with children, which is a passion of mine. As an added bonus, I was able to care for my own children when they were young. All 4 of our children are currently attending Fargo Public Schools. We make ends meet by working hard for every dollar, prioritizing wants and needs, living within our means, keeping debt to a minimum, and watching for sales. I have to tell you, my oldest daughter gets a little embarrassed with me at the grocery store when I hand over a stack of coupons, but she's learning how to budget and use money wisely. Just like many others in the Fargo community, we are proof that the American dream does exist. Education is a big piece of that puzzle, and we are so fortunate to have great schools and teachers. Not only will I help Fargo Public Schools be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, if I'm elected, I will encourage communication. I believe in creating avenues for stakeholder involvement. I would work to build a collaborative relationship between the board and the community by restoring communication, trust, and integrity. If I was elected, I'd focus on transparency and use strategies to ensure everyone has a voice. Having input from a variety of points of view can only make us stronger. I believe in a great education for every child. I would be honored to serve you on the Fargo Board of Education as a representative of our entire community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And our last opening statement from Abdulwali Sharif Abdul Nasir.
Say it right. Hi, everyone, and thank you, and thank you, League of Women Voters, for facilitating this conversation, and for all of you for being here with us today and those who are watching. And my name is Abdulwali Sharif, and I'm a husband, a father of 2 years old, and I'm a graduate of North Dakota and public schools and proud North Dakotans. And I serve as Executive Director of Somali Community Development in North Dakota. It's a nonprofit that provides education, outreach, and client-centered and services to immigrant and new American in Fargo Moorhead. I also serve as a board member of the Fargo Human Relations Commission. Due to my personal experiences as an immigrant and now citizen of this country, I firsthand understand how education can transform lives. And improving our education system starts with each one of us working together. So I believe in promoting in an environment that promotes opportunity, participation, and accessibility for all students by equipping teachers with sufficient resources to do so. I also believe that the students should see themselves represented in the face of a school and a district workforce. I promote fostering an environment where belonging, unity, empathy, and compassion are celebrated among all the students. I am asking for your vote to build a better community, to build a better future for our children, together. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I want to thank our audience for all the fantastic questions today. I'm sure we're not going to have time to get through all of them, so I'll maybe try to combine where we can. The question that we've had in a related way, and probably at least 3 of our questions here, is related to school safety. So I'm going to try to, Sandra, you'll be starting out, so I'm going to try to put this into an answerable question for you guys. So we'll say it in this way. So are Fargo schools doing enough to ensure a safe environment for students and staff? And then also kind of, if you could wind into your answer, if at all possible, related to that, somebody asked a question of what is your opinion of guns in schools? It's kind of relating to that safety question. So I'll say that again. So are Fargo schools doing enough to ensure a safe environment for students and staff? And what is your opinion of guns in schools? So if your answer could hopefully address both of those, that would be great. And yep, Sandra, you can start us off.
I think that we do a lot for safety in our schools currently. I know that as far as when I go to Lewis and Clark, or if my mother and father go to pick up my son, they need to be buzzed in after school hours have begun. So there isn't just walking right in on the premises. You need to be let in by the office. I do think that we all want our children to be safe when they're at school, as well as the teachers want to have a safe environment to work. So my son, an example, he gets upset during a class period and will want to go home. He will leave the class, go down the hall, go get his coat, and he's gonna leave. And I had to explain to him that it's not safe to do that he doesn't necessarily have a key to get in the house, maybe nobody's home if he leaves. So for me, a personal choice on the guns in schools, I'm not for guns in schools. I know that when I was in high school, we had guns for Oklahoma when we were doing the play, and we got in trouble for bringing unloaded guns to school. So I don't know if that's something that teachers would want to have to worry about regularly either.
All right, thank you. Yamal.
Well, thank you. What is my opinion on safety school? As a mother, I am very concerned for our school safety. In the light of recent events, I have been actually studying very closely of what's had happened. As a mother who have a child that is in school, especially like right now she is in Discovery, that's where she attends school. And I believe that our Fargo school did already put a lot of measure in place already. Like Sandra mentioned, when parents come in or when we pick up our kids, we definitely come in and knock on, especially like buzz on the door, making sure that we come in. And then also on top of that, our staff are asking us, who are you coming here to pick up the child and everything. So I believe that there are other safety that we can put in place too as well. As I know that for facts, the gun issues is very important. We should not equip our teacher with guns at all, because it's not the place it's not the place for guns. It's the place for teaching our children, and we don't need that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Guns in schools? No. That's my answer for that one. Fargo Public Schools is fortunate to have have SROs, resource officers, that we collaborate with the city of Fargo, our police department, and those individuals help us help relationships built within schools between students and staff to help bridge the gap really in that area. I just experienced a fire drill when I was at Lincoln today. It went perfectly. The district can always do more. Every school and every district can always do more. One thing that was discussed at the national convention was perception is reality. And so having the conversations about how our students and our staff and our administrators and our teachers are feeling within our schools, and what are we doing to help them stay safe and be safe, but do they feel as if they are, and do they understand what is going on, and what can we do to help create that feeling of safety. I do also want to mention that the school district does do reunification drills on a regular basis, and one recently was done, and that is where a school there will be an exit program for the school of the students and everyone in the building, and a reunification plan for getting all the students back to families, caregivers, or where they should be should an emergency arise. So the school district does have some efforts that they put into place. More can always be done.
All right, thank you. And Brian?
Thank you. As I said before, hats off to the Fargo Public School Board for creating the policies that are in place now. Our children feel very safe in schools. I know my wife has picked them up, and she's always commented on how secure the place is. Definitely no guns in school. There's not a need. We at Lewis and Clark, we had a gentleman named Officer Al. I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's had a major drug bust out in Berthold, North Dakota, where I was at. Officer Al always came into our schools with the kids, and his presence is great, and it was awesome. The kids loved it, and I think that needs to happen in the schools here if they're not happening already. As I've said before, it takes parents and citizens and teachers and kids and everybody working together to keep the areas safe, and everybody has to want that, and everybody can have that. So that's all.
Thank you. And Robin?
I don't think anybody can answer if we are doing enough until a tragedy happens. And so we need to continue to work on things. But some things that are happening, I'm going to differ with everybody up here. There are guns in our schools, and our student resource officers carry them. They are assigned to middle and high schools, and they're assigned to elementary schools as well. There are some things that we are not at liberty to discuss that with some school security systems with the public, but that is well taken care of. I have never heard of a teacher that is wanting to carry a firearm, so good luck forcing them to do that. We utilized school safety grants through the state of North Dakota to reconfigure our entrances in our schools, and all new construction is built with safety precautions in mind. The video entrances and the door locks, I feel those are so important that the Fargo Youth Commission bought them for all the gyms in school because we provide childcare out of them. And the district is also in the process of hiring a safety administrator. It's the first time our district has ever done this, and that's paramount right now. And we're just not talking physical safety, we're talking mental safety. And I don't have enough time to talk about some of the internal threats, so I will stop there.
All right. Thank you. And David?
I don't think you will ever see a time when there will be a business item on the school board agenda for arming staff. We have a very, very good working relationship with the Fargo Police Department. As the other school board members have mentioned, we have SROs, resource officers, in the high schools and in the middle schools. We are in the process now of reconfiguring the entrance to Discovery Middle School to make it more safer, period. We're working very, very strongly with teachers in all staff in training to handle incidences that occur in the classrooms. We have behavior interventionists and technicians in schools. We will be increasing and broadening the scope of that. I agree 100% with what Robin said. We don't know how we're doing until something happens, and God forbid we are prepared.
Thank you. Rado?
Well, it's hard to follow up here after the two true experts, for me as an outsider, but I did read up a little bit on the school resource officers before we heard the term a moment ago, and who perform threefold function: educational, investigative, or mediating, and then law enforcement. So I believe they are entitled to carry firearms, but obviously no guns for students, in my opinion. And I think in general. The feeling is that, for me at least, the Fargo schools are safe enough, with the caveat, with the great peril mentioned a moment ago. There were no major incidents, and God forbid never happen. We read in yesterday's paper about increase of assaults, but that may be a time for a separate question. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy?
I agree with the direction Fargo Public Schools is taking with school safety. They're addressing the concerns by making each building safe with secure entrances. working with the local police to have each middle and high school is equipped with their own student resource officer, and they practice drills for emergency preparedness. Fargo Public Schools is working with law enforcement, first responders, public health, and others to be prepared in case of any public health concerns within our schools. I would not support teachers with guns. The only way I would support more guns in school is if we provide the schools with more student resource officers.
All right, thank you. And Abdwali.
And as we all agree, number one thing we worry about is safety of our kids as a parent. So as Fargo in schools, we have a good schools, and we have some resources that, and working with the police department, and starting from the whole building, cameras on the buildings, and the whole package. So safety is number one issue that we all worry about, and having that all in place, and also like having having also better counselors at schools that when something happens, that we prepare our kids that to prevent what is happening in the nation that we see today, and as far as the guns is concerned, there's no guns in the schools, especially for teachers.
All right, thank you. Jennifer.
So in terms of arming teachers, this question has been posed to our experts, our law enforcement, and I have not met one that has said that is a good idea. I'm with everyone on the panel here in saying I would not support arming our teachers in our schools. We do have SROs. We have ongoing training. We have secure buildings. And additionally, Robin mentioned that we will be adding a safety officer moving forward. And this individual will have the training, additional training that we could provide additional safety techniques in our schools that maybe we aren't currently doing. And as far as safety in the classroom, I believe that we also have a workforce working on that as well right now. So I really don't have anything additional other than most of what everyone else has said.
All right, thank you. So our next question, we'll start with Yamal. And just a reminder to make sure, and as you're giving your response, to keep your eye on Rachel for the stop sign. So our next question is, when people consider moving to Fargo, they may factor in, and probably usually do, factor in schools as a reason to move here. How can the school board make sure that Fargo Public Schools and the Fargo School Board has a positive image?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I appreciate it. I will say when I first moved here to Fargo in about 2007, it was actually very good transition from where I was coming from, especially from Fergus Falls, Minnesota to Fargo. I thought that the people here were very, they were very accepting. They were very welcoming, I will say. They were very caring people. And also, too, when my daughter started going to school here in kindergarten, especially like Centennial Elementary School, I met with her teachers. They were very welcoming as well. They also even said if I have issues, if I have concern or any type like that, I should be able to come to them and address it with them. And also, too, with other like a principal and teachers too as well. I have not been across some boards, but I bet this would be the first thing that I will do, maybe address it to them too as well. Just like John Rubenbacher, when I had some concern, I reached out to him and he helped me. So I think I'll do the same thing like what he did. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rebecca?
Well, thank you. I want to mention that our new superintendent that will be coming on, Mr. Rupak Gandhi, spent a couple of additional days in Fargo getting to know our community before his interview. And he toured around some restaurants and drove by schools and went through neighborhoods and was able to build a positive impression for himself and his family in terms of considering if he really wanted to take on the idea of being superintendent for our schools. But image is something very interesting. Of course, we don't always have control over all of it. Some of it has to do with the media and what of course people say, right? But communication is so important, and offering up opportunities to have collaboration with community members and opening up dialogue with our realtors and helping to educate our realtors about the public school system that we have in Fargo, and working with our individuals within our parks and within our cities. It's definitely a challenging job, but I would say that communication and collaboration with other entities is key on that matter, and also making sure that communication is open with our local media for the information we would like to portray.
Thank you.
In Berthold, that's Ward County. We struggled to get teachers, and that included the city of Minot. So we came out with a video and showing what we did or what we had to offer at Ward County, all the different things. That's something we could do here, is we could put something together and get it on the website, showing all of our schools, showcasing what we do here in Fargo, and get that on our website, making sure, our buildings are all kept up. And I have to say, the school board, past boards have done a great job of keeping our buildings up and planning and have a good plan together. And so, yeah, that's how I would do it.
Thank you. Robin?
This one's easy. We moved back to Fargo because of the school system. We lived all over the country. My son was in 4 schools by the time he was in the 3rd grade, and by the time he got here, he was so far behind. He really spoke to the value that we offer here. We do work with realtors. The first questions people ask when they come here is, which school is the best? Which private school should my kids attend? And they said, they're all good. It just depends on what you're looking for. If you want religion in your education, or if you want offerings. It's pretty hard to find a bad school here. In my personal, unjaded opinion, we have small class sizes. We're accredited from a highly respected national accreditation service. Small school classes and school sizes are a huge attractor for parents. We know that's better for kids. That's better for academic achievement. That we have a plethora of extracurricular activities and very involved parents with their children in their schools. And that makes our schools that much stronger. I mean, we have everything to brag about, and I think our Fargo public school system and our secondary is our #1 workforce recruitment.
Thank you. So David?
Since I've been on the board, we've opened Ed Clapp Elementary and Eagles Elementary. Fargo has a very strong commitment to neighborhood schools, and I think that's extremely important. Looking at schools that have a walkability factor and just give people a feeling of having some place that they belong. We work very closely with both the City Commission and the parks, so that we're not only developing schools, but we're developing walkways, bike paths, parks, all sorts of things, so that our city is a very, very desirable place for people to come to. And we hear that time and time again. If you want your kids to have a good school, if you want them to have a good education, if you want to feel that you're really counted, I don't think there's a better option in the state of North Dakota or in the Midwest or possibly in the United States than to live in Fargo.
All right, thank you. Rado?
Yes, I can attest to a great job with Eagles Elementary School right across from where I live, so I have a beautiful view of the building every morning. I go for my jog or to work. I moved myself to Fargo in early 2012. I believe the image of a school system was always good for me. I worked as an medical officer for MEPS for a couple of years, and so saw a lot of high school graduates, candidates for military service. They were always well-spoken, respectful, very good. My visits to the schools are not daily, but again, from occasional visits and reading the papers, I have that very positive image. And obviously, I believe that North Dakota, Fargo, or maybe it was not Fargo, but North Dakota school system produced our first gold medalists for our country in women's hockey. So I think that that was another good thing. Yes, so all good things to build upon.
All right, thank you. To Stacy.
We live in Fargo because it's a great community and has a phenomenal education system in place with wonderful teachers. I believe in neighborhood schools with small class sizes. In Fargo, we have 38 neighborhoods and we have 23 schools, so over half of our neighborhoods have a school in them. I believe in the walkability factor. I think that gets kids and parents drawn to those neighborhoods, and I believe it helps everybody join in with the community, gets the teachers together, the community members together, and residents that don't have kids in school, brings us everyone together. I think Fargo does have a very welcoming community. Speaking of videos, there's a great one on YouTube for Davies that they put together to the song of Happy. And they showcase the lunch ladies from the library to the principal. There's lots of great videos out there if you want to research on Fargo.
Thank you. To Abdulwali.
And Fargo they have a great school, and for me, it's very welcoming. And for me too, like when I came here, like I knew very little language, and even the first word I learned was like "yep," you know. Do you mean like yeah, yes? So it's very welcoming. Is like we said, you know, education can transform our life. So for our school, Fargo schools, in having a better teachers, better equipment, having a welcoming, and a place that, for example, I have a son who is 2 years old. By the time he reaches, I want him to love school, not only love it, but to cherish it and enjoy it going to school. So for our school here, Fargo, is a very peace place compared to where you come from, you know, us. So it's a very peace place. It's a very good place to raise your kid. So, and the positive image that we're giving out there is always important. So, Fargo schools for better education.
Thank you. To Jennifer.
So I see this as really one of the goals of our, communications committee, and I think back to when my husband and I were looking for a home, and some of the things that we desired were all the things that were mentioned: walkability, neighborhood school, and having grown up on the north side of Fargo, I knew what it meant to have a neighborhood school. I knew what it meant to walk to school and to walk home, and that was something I desired for my kids too. Having said that, when we were looking, there were 4 houses on the market on the north side of Fargo, and that's it. This was 15 years ago. And so we are on the south side of Fargo because there were no homes on the north side of Fargo that fit our needs at the time. But I can tell you that we value the neighborhood community as well on the south side of Fargo, too. So I think that it is important to take that opportunity to, for the board to partner with our local realtors and our park board and wherever we can to make sure that we're addressing and offering different avenues of communication so that folks can see that our city, north to south, offers a great education at every single school.
All right. Thank you. And Sandra.
I think the Fargo Public Schools does have a good image, and to reiterate what's already been said, a lot of great answers. So videos, apparently there is one I haven't seen, but I'd like to check out. And there's a bunch of other communication as far as, they said with realtors, so that when people are with children looking for homes, where the schools are, what other amenities there are. I live right between Carl Ben and Lewis and Clark, and I love that, but I rent. I don't own my home. And so there might be a lot of those issues as well for other parents, that they aren't going to be purchasing a home necessarily, but still need help in knowing what is available for the school system. So maybe increasing our communication or finding a more effective way to communicate that way.
All right. Thank you. So for our next question, we will start with Rebecca. So there are 2 that kind of go together. So of course, there's going to be a question about money and funding. And so one person asked, how are you going to save taxpayers money? But then there was another question that I think actually asks an even more interesting question. So Knowing that state funds might be unreliable at times, how can we cut spending, but also what areas do you believe need to be protected? So how can we save taxpayers' money, especially considering we know that sometimes state funding might be unreliable, but also what areas do you think need to be protected? So Rebecca, we will start with you.
One way we can save money, or at least try to save money, would be through collaboration. Looking at different ways that we can collaborate with our neighboring school districts. That has been discussed a little bit in the paper already regarding collaboration possibility with West Fargo, collaboration with other entities working and seeing in terms of community and technical education, some of our universities in terms of programs that are might be possibilities. Sometimes, of course, programs get funded by grants. Grants are good and also scary at the same time, because a great program can be set up through a grant, and the grant might not be able to be solidified the next time around, and then there goes the program. We have a constant struggle with funding in regard to our legislature, and there's a constant battle between wanting lower property taxes and wanting to talk about lowering property taxes and actually lowering them, but then at the state level, but then the local community needing to come up with the balance to figure out how to actually fund. I believe that where we need to invest our money is in our kids, and that's not just in the young kids in our schools, but that's all of the resources that goes into it in regard to our teachers. We need to look at paying our teachers like professionals, and educating our kids is not a savings plan. It's an investment. Thank you.
Thank you. To Brian.
I love this question. 22 years being school superintendent, and I've followed school financial facts in every school in the whole state every single year. I have everything you want to know. It's amazing how we can do things. In 08-09, we reduced property taxes in Fargo from $64 million to $47 million. We saved a lot of money that year because the state funded it. And then they slowly kept creeping up, till we got to 2012, 2013. We went from 51 million local dollars to 38 million because, again, the state legislature funded it because they had the money. So how do you save the taxpayers' money? Have the state fund it. And that's pretty easy. What are we going to protect? We're going to protect everything, because everything matters. Because if it doesn't, why are we doing it? And you know how we're going to do it? There's $5.5 billion in the legacy fund, and that's a rainy day fund, and it's starting to cloud up really fast around here.
Clever.
To Robin.
Okay. Protecting taxpayers' values. We talked about, Rebecca talked about leveraging resources with West Fargo, with CTE programs. As I travel the country, most are actually amazed that we partner so closely with the city parks and schools. We leverage our taxpayer dollars. Legislature is vitally important. They fund 65% of our schools. I think it's fair to say that I have more legislative experience than anybody on the board, working particularly with the majority party. That's going to be a very important piece in the next session. If we're going to protect things, I'm going to be fighting for public school in general. I'm a shameless defender of public school, class size, and we need to give our teachers the tools that they need to help our children succeed.
Thank you. To David.
There's absolutely no way to make a dent in this question in a minute. I very much appreciated what Brian said, because he's been a chief financial officer for a school district, and he's right on. We have lowered our taxes in Fargo tremendously because of the fact that the state said that they're going to take on more of a commitment in funding education. The goal was to reach 70%, and now all of a sudden there was no increase in the last biennium, and it's looking very, very skinny for the next. Cutting taxes, honestly, looking you straight in the eye and telling you I don't think it's going to happen. 85% of our budget is directly related to staff salaries. So if we're going to significantly cut the bottom line in our budget, we've got to reduce staff. And that's not something I'm prepared to do, because that's going to mean reducing the availability of classes or increasing the class sizes. Neither one of them is an option that Fargo wants to look at right now.
All right, thank you. To Rado.
Tough question for me, little experience, but used a little cheat sheet here and read that a year of public school costs about $10,500, cost the government $10,500. And North Dakota is somewhere in the middle. Utah, Wyoming, or Idaho are the cheapest, 6, and New York, Washington are 18,000. So I'm not sure how to save taxpayers' money, because it seems like if we save on one end, on one source, then someone else will have to come in and cover. So it's a matter of shuffling. It's a matter of proportions, talking, good negotiations, good reasonable use of resources, who is available. Definitely, I would like to be on the frugal side with things, but with my interests of health and wellness, would not cut on those. And obviously there's many persons who love arts and theater and would not dare to say we should cut those. So would love to go to a production myself and listen to Shakespeare.
All right, thank you. To Stacy.
My husband and I are both small business entrepreneurs. He's a carpenter, I'm a child care provider. We make ends meet by working hard, prioritizing work wants and needs, living within our means, and keeping debt to a minimum. I would look for ways to be more conservative in areas that do not directly impact the students. You can count on me to help make and follow a budget.
Thank you. To Abdawali.
And by saving the tax money, and let the state have funded. State and then federal, and also apply for some grants to cover. And for protection, we need to protect our future, our children, our teachers, and protect the whole thing.
All right, thank you. To Jennifer Benson.
So I would say, too, that it's about collaboration. You know, Rebecca listed many things that we're doing currently to collaborate with our neighboring school districts, CTE, the recent conversation about collaborating with a facility over at Agassiz. You know, West Fargo is growing at a rate of 500 to 600 students, and Fargo Public Schools is about 100, maybe just shy of that. We're both in a growing environment, which is good, but there are lots of things that we could do together to also save the taxpayer a great deal. And so I would say, you know, to continue to explore areas of opportunity there would probably be the most viable. Otherwise, you know, there could be conversation around underfunding revenue sources. Higher education does catering services. Is that something that we should consider? Transportation collaboration, just to think of a few off the top of my head, but all conversations that we could be or should be having moving forward.
Thank you. To Sandra.
Well, I remember there was a vote about the budgets for Fargo schools, whether we wanted to keep it at the same, I think it was a mill levy. I'm not entirely certain at this moment, but I remember people talking about it, and it's one of those things where the taxes, property tax goes up, and we all know it's because the state funding has gone down. So really, we would need to protect all areas, the teachers' salaries, the amount that we use for our food, and especially for those who are underprivileged, don't even have enough to buy school lunches. I know in Moorhead, there's a neat little fundraiser they do often now, the PB&J, and it's collaborated with a business of Junkyard Brewing Company. And so maybe things like that would be something Fargo and West Fargo can look into as well.
Thank you. Yamal.
I guess I'm the last one. That's good. Well, not really. So anyway, one thing that I have to make sure that I understand about the taxes and certain thing in order for our taxpayer to be saved is collaboration is the word, is the keys and to everything. If we all work with the parents, community members, teachers, and other government identities and certain things like that. I believe that we can accomplish so much in Fargo-Moorhead area. Not only to mention, there are a lot of people, sometimes they will say, oh my God, what's going on here? But I think that we have so much university here. Why can we use their resources too as well? Especially like student teachers, other individual. There are so much that we can do in Fargo-Moorhead area. And the only thing that we can do in here is collaboration. When we all communicate, when we all understanding each other, I think that our community can actually grow together as one.
All right. Thank you. So that brings us all the way around. So Brian, the next question, we'll start with you. I'm just gonna say we had a number of questions here related to the needs of diverse students in different ways. And so I don't think we're gonna have time to get to each individual kind of area, but I'm just gonna pick a few out and we'll see what we can get through. So the first one we have is, the question is that the U.S. Secretary of Education recently rescinded 72 guidance documents outlining the rights of disabled students. What will you do to protect the rights of special needs children in Fargo Public Schools? So the underlying question is, what will you do to protect the rights of special needs children in Fargo Public Schools?
Well, I'll keep my answer pretty short. Public Law 94-142 states that all children will receive a free and appropriate education. That's the federal law. And so we're going to follow it.
All right, that was short. Thank you. Robin?
How do you really feel? Yeah, it's constitutionally protected. It's kind of like the president's budget, that is a reflection of their beliefs, but it needs to be removed from the Constitution by our elected officials. It's also in the North Dakota Constitution. It's more than anything, it's the moral thing to do. So I can't imagine anybody in, well, I can imagine some, but I can imagine anybody who really cares about kids and education that they'd want to take that away. We need to take care of all kids. You want to break my heart, you want to upset me, you try to discriminate, and Mama Bear comes out. So it's not going to happen. I'm not too worried about it.
Okay, thank you. To David?
Well, following Robin and Brian, I think somebody can have my minute. They've really summed it up. We are mandated to educate all children. It says nothing in there about race, creed, disabilities, anything. And I think that's one of the things that I pride myself on as a board member. We have at every board meeting, we have people coming in showcasing what's going on in our district, all the way from robotics down to our special ed programs. We're not neglecting anybody. If you're in a situation where you have a special needs child, there's nothing more important, and probably nobody is going to give you what you feel that child needs. I assure you that Fargo's doing everything they can to see that every single child is receiving every possible gift that we can give them.
Thank you. To Rado?
Very little to add here. I think I have many more questions about the subject that could provide answers, so I'll be very brief. Of course, no cuts to special needs. I don't know details, but imagine that there is an ample supply of, let's say, transportation, special needs vans or chairs or passages that's there, and like Ms. Nelson mentioned, those high preferences in the budget are not necessarily translated into policy. That's my understanding too. So no, the children, all the children have to be taken care of, and public school system is just a great place for that. Not sure about percentage of, let's say, homeschooling. Let's say some of the education could be done at home, or maybe there may be a different question if it's not a disability, but let's say a temporary illness, what other services could be provided there. But,
Thank you. To Stacy?
Hi. I agree with most of the people on the panel so far. I think Fargo Public Schools is doing a great job, and I believe in an education for every child.
Thank you. And to Abdouali?
Yes, I am amazed with the programs that we have in Fargo schools, and all students should be treated and educated equally, and don't leave any student behind, any child behind at all, no matter what situation they're in. Is a gift from God. Thank you.
Thank you. To Jennifer?
Really, I would echo everyone's comments. The only additional thing that I would add is I also see this as a partnering opportunity. There are many great organizations in the city that currently offer many services, and Fargo Public Schools does a great job of partnering with many of them already, but that is definitely an avenue to explore moving forward.
Thank you. To Sandra?
Well, certainly when we respect the individual, we would support an environment where people of different backgrounds can reach their fullest potential with equal access to opportunities. We definitely have to follow law, of course, so there would be always the respect for each student and wanting to get them to be educated to the fullest potential. From personal experience, I had my child already diagnosed before entering our school system. However, it took the Fargo Public School System until February of this year, with less than 2 months in the school year to go, to officially give my son an independent education plan. And I was explained to me that they were just following the federal guidelines on how to proceed. So I think maybe there's parts where we can always improve.
All right. Thank you. Jamal?
As a person who used to work for children with disabilities, it would be very disappointed for Fargo School to be able to discriminate against these type of individuals, because I believe that we are all in this world for a reason, and we are all in this world to make a difference, and we shouldn't leave anybody behind, no matter what the color of their skin is, their background, their education. Even if they walk on the floor or anything like that, we should not discriminate at all. And I believe that, I know that Fargo Public School is not doing that. And I know that if they are caught of doing that, they should be definitely going to jail. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. To Rebecca?
Well, like everyone else said here, it's the law. So we really don't have an opportunity to discuss if we're going to educate the kids. That's not even an option. We talk about at many of our board meetings and our committee meetings about that it is our responsibility to take care of every child that walks through our door, no matter if they're born here or if they're born someplace else, and what their ability is. I wanted to point out that, just as some examples, we have an autism academy that exists through the school system. We've talked a little bit before about student wellness facilitators and positive student behavior individuals working within our school district to help us further facilitate working with children of all different needs. And again, it's a federal mandate, really, that we educate all children that come to us. Certainly, there's always funding that we would like to have more of, so that we're not just reaching adequacy, but we're reaching excellence. And I think that's a challenge, is us to figure out, okay, if we're at adequate for funding levels, even if we can get to adequate, how do we get to excellent?
All right. Thank you. So our next question is going to start with Robin. So this question is kind of related to diversity in a way of thinking that, many of our students have kind of diverse income levels. So how do you plan to close the homework gap? The homework gap is the growing problem of online homework being assigned, even though not all kids might have access to internet at home.
Actually, they do through grants, through boy, I don't even know what the name of the company is, but low-income grants are available for internet access for all students. But let's talk about homework. That's what I do for a living. Every day after school, I have homework mentors that help those kids that need some help, whether their parents are working multiple jobs or maybe they don't speak the language. But that is what the Boys and Girls Club does. We do that through grants and donors, and our community is very supportive of that. But a lot of those kids don't get that help, and they deserve it. And I think that's where the community needs to step up and help those kids that might not have the assistance that they need. I can help them usually up until about 5th grade math. Then I'm done. I can't figure it out. So that's why I employ about 230 college students that mentor our kids with their homework on a daily basis. I can.
Thank you. David?
It's kind of interesting that this question came up because at our last school board meeting, we had a presentation on the what's it called? Power School. Where the homework and the assignments, the grades, everything are available 24/7 to parents. And the question that I asked, as an educator, I'm very, very aware of homework. I had a teacher tell me the other day, we've got to quit calling it homework and start calling it home practice. And that makes a lot of sense. The problem I found with homework is that often if you send things home that kids are not familiar with, it does them absolutely no good whatsoever. One of the things that I've thought about for years and years are better utilizing our schools and looking at year-round school. Studies show that by the time many kids get into 6th grade, the kids who have been struggling, they've fallen a full year behind due to the 3 months off in the summer when they're not practicing their skills. I think you're going to hear a lot more about that. And homework, homework is an issue, as every parent sitting out there will attest to.
Thank you. Conrado?
Well, in trying to come up with an answer to this question, sort of looked at the Fargo libraries, at least 10 listed here, and I myself love going to James Carson Library, not far from where I live, and there are a lot of computer stations, so I'm sure this is already utilized. Ms. Nelson mentioned grants, there's good money invested there. I don't know whether that would cover the majority or even significant part of the needs. But if there's a situation at home when there's a temporary lack of computer, laptop, library is a great resource. And I myself need to find out how there's after hours help in schools, so how teachers are available to guide students to complete home practice before they even reach home. But good many resources, I think.
Thank you. To Stacy?
I know there is funding and grants available for computers, internet access, and even one-on-one tutoring in Fargo Public Schools. At the middle school and high school level, at middle school, you have the same counselor for 3 years, and high school, 4 years. A lot of times you can work with your counselor. Since you have them for so long, you really build that relationship, and you can schedule different open hours into your schedule so you can work with those tutors or other teachers that have off hours. There's also time at the middle and high school level, so you can come in before classes start, and there are areas where you can stay after school, after classes are dismissed, and work on homework or meet with teachers or have tutoring sessions at that time.
Thank you. Abdawali?
In every student, they learn differently. But at the same time, it's very important to identify in how to help every student. So some students that are very high IQ, they have the help they need. And also the students that have a very low IQ, they need to tap and utilize all the resources that is around. Stuff after school programs, non-profits that are providing after school programs, in the library, resources, and so on. So in the homework gap, some of the students that really need that extra help in order to reach and go forward, it can go really a long way. So we need to use and emphasize about that that the resources are available, and also to care about our students, that we have to know who needs the level of the care that they need, so in order to identify and help them for the better education.
Thank you. To Jennifer?
So we know that students' performance is better if they have supports like parents and mentors. And you've heard some examples of the district's continuously looking for ways in creating avenues to help parents or equip parents to help their kiddos with homework. Things like Seesaw app to keep parents engaged on the day-to-day activities. I think in that presentation we saw about 15 different apps that they could currently use to do that. Additionally, there's interactive technology programs that can help. Some of our teachers utilize Flip the Classroom, where the student would do the lesson at home. It's a recorded lesson. The teacher's recorded. They do it at home. They can watch it with their parents or whomever their mentor is. And then they do the homework in the classroom during the day, during the class time. So there, again, Fargo Public Schools is continually looking for creative ways to make sure that there are a multitude of avenues to help kids get their homework, do their homework.
All right, thanks. To Sandra?
If the question is to the gap why children don't have access to the internet at home or to get their assignments from another location than school, then maybe there's collaboration with the city we could do, something to have public hotspots, or even utilizing the existing grants and programs that would offer students who can't get access to computer, have a computer, maybe even have a public Wi-Fi that they can access. So those are some things we could think about.
Thank you. Yamal?
Thank you. Well, like what Abdul Ali said, that every student learn differently. They all have different approach, and I believe that too as well. Maybe our teacher too should have different approach. As you all know, you all agree that we definitely have to have different sort of way to be able to help our students. But you have to understand there are also too a need, especially in diversities, and especially for immigrant and refugees that are there, because they do not have the services. And when they don't, probably you all already heard from the forum how they really break it down very nicely and beautifully, I will say. And I think that they are lacking. We are lacking some of those programs in our school districts. If we talked about it too more, especially on standardized testing, you can see the differences in diversity. They really are behind. So what other resources can we do? Like Robin said, she's only up to 5th grade. What other are there? I mean, like up to.
Thanks, Mom.
So yeah. So what other after-school program and other resources should we be able to help these immigrant community or refugees to be able to help us increase that standardized testing in our school? So we just have to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. To Rebecca?
Okay. I want to build on what Jennifer talked about in regard to continually looking for additional options. And I want to second what Namal said. I'm not the expert in the arena of where you are in terms of students coming to America and the needs that they have. I am not going to pretend that I know some of those needs and we need other people involved to help us come up with solutions to help us bridge that gap. But I did want to tell you about a couple of experiences I had when I was at Carl Ben Middle School last week. I spent some time in 2 rooms. One, it's called a catch-up room, and another one is a room where intervention work is done. And so both of those, in a little bit of a different way though, provide opportunities for kids that want to either, sometimes it's even working ahead on their homework, but sometimes it's needing to truly catch up. To provide that opportunity within the school day. Our middle school calendar within the last, I think, couple of years was reworked so that some of those opportunities are available to the kids when they're truly in school. A teacher that I spent time with mentioned to me that she would be interested in us again talking about another bus option, so that once we have our kids at school, possibly is there a second bus available so that kiddos that need to stay additionally can, and then be taken home later. Thank you.
Thank you. To Brian?
Yes, down in Fairmont, where I'm superintendent part-time, the teachers, I wasn't there in 16, 17, but they discovered they had a lot of zeros. They were getting a lot of incomplete work. The homework wasn't getting turned in, no evaluation. And so they decided that they didn't want this to happen during the 17th and the 18th year, this year where I'm superintendent, and they decided to have call it an ICU hour after school. In other words, your grade is sick. And so they work with those students, and it's gone well. They see a lot more work being returned back to the kids, from the kids to the teachers to be graded, see where they're at. And the governor is asking us in education to be innovative, and maybe this is a chance where we can figure out some sort of innovative way to do a better job of getting homework back, maybe get some increased funding, or something to help, and it could alleviate taxes as a result, and still get the kids' homework.
All right, thank you. So our next question, we'll start with David. What do you think is Fargo School's greatest challenge, and how should we address this? That's a pretty wide open question. What do you think is Fargo Public Schools' greatest challenge, and how should we address this?
Well, I know that this came up in the talk media and everywhere a few months ago when there was mention of potential boundary changes. Fargo's a very, very long, skinny district. We only have potential for growth on the north side and the south side. And as a result, it's very, very hard to get kids into the areas where you may have space. Right now, Davies is not at full capacity, but they will be within the next 3 or 4 years, and that's going to create a real issue. You're either going to have to increase class size, you're going to have to increase the size of the building, or you're going to have to change the boundaries. I think that we'll be looking at boundary issues in the next few years, and we knew, even though the board had never even mentioned the fact that we were discussing them, it came up in a preliminary report that we receive every year, and the outrage in the community was pretty rampant. So I know that the boundary issues are going to be something that people are going to be hearing about in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Tirado?
Maybe this is a bit theoretical again for an outsider, but are there questions about gradual increase in objective measures of educational excellence? Are we aiming at gradual increase of GPA, increase graduation rate, which is already very, very high, I think 94, 95%, and is there an interest in increasing of continuation of college and university education? It's already pretty impressive, from what I understand. At least a third of students, high school students, go to college, and another third or more do at least partial education in the first few years. So, how to increase these things in a painless, cost-effective way?
Thank you. To Stacy?
There's many priorities in the Fargo Public Schools, but one of the greatest challenges, I believe, right now is the achievement gap between high schools. Every child deserves the chance at the American dream. Closing the achievement gap would ensure that chance. I think we need to do more research and figure out how the best way to close that gap is.
Thank you. To Abdulwali?
I think there's a lot of challenges with our schools, and could be growth and boundaries and behavior issues. And how do we approach, and behavior issues, a kid or a student with behavior issues, And as we need to come up with a plan that how can we help this child with behavior. And we know the most behavior kid might be the most smart kid and very brilliant. So those are the things that, and also in some of the boundary issues, like schools, and for example, right now at Discovery, the ratio, maybe we need to work on the ratio, students and teachers, or if we say again we're going to build a new school or expand it, again we're going to have the issue for the budget. So we need to identify all these issues and maybe come up with a better plan. But the number one priority, I think, of behavior issues would be great.
Thank you. To Jennifer.
So I would say until we've reached 100% on, our student achievement and growth numbers, I will always put that as number one. So continuous improvement of student achievement scores. Number two, I would say a proactive vision for long-term facility planning. And I would also like to see our negotiations team, in collaboration with the FEA team, study sustainable models that are not only financially sustainable, but also ones that reward and motivate our staff. Additionally, I would say improving teacher, staff, and morale. And all of these will require many, many conversation and lots of collaboration. Too many to list in under 30 seconds.
All right, thanks, Sandra.
There are probably many challenges that face Fargo Public Schools. I would think the biggest is with the growth of our city and the number of students coming, new students every year, that finding a way to keep the class sizes small, because as many of us have said, that's one of the things we like about our Fargo Public Schools is the small classes, but then being able to have enough resources for not only the students but the staff, and so keeping a budget but having that expansion, and then where do we go with the expansion? Like he said, we've got the river on one side, West Fargo on the other, so it's north or it's south. So I think that's probably going to be the bigger challenge, is all encompassing with the budget, the expansion, the new students, and where are they going to go, and what resources can we provide?
Thank you. Nimal?
Thank you. What I do, we are look into this boundary, why school boundary are increasing. First thing that I need to do is to look into our student achievements, because that's the number one thing that we all have to do as a parent, as an educator, and anybody that, or as a parent. I can assure you this. I'm sure that academic skill, experience necessary for life, those, and also to those facing challenges in life, especially like the standardized testing. When you see a child who's behind, it's very difficult to be able to say, you know what, I need to move this child forward to a different grade, or to a different environment. And also too, we can also look at those other schools like Madison they have 34 different languages. That's another challenge too in our communities. How can we be able to better them? How can we be able to increase them and to be able to understand what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you. To Rebecca?
I'm going to say one challenge, and that's funding. And so while we have a national conversation that exists that seems to be against public schools and talking about voucher systems, and even at the state level, the budget that is going to need to continue to be looked at, and we have a growing community here in Fargo, that's a blessing to have a growing community. But with that, and a community that has high expectations for our educational system, we have to pay our teachers more, our staff and administrators more. We have to maintain our schools, we have to add on to our buildings, we have to build new buildings. We have to pay for our curriculum materials, we need to take care of the diverse educational needs of our kids, and we need to provide mental and emotional health needs. So those are that's part of the big, long list of expectations realistic expectations of our school system. And we need to figure out how to tackle this financial situation. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough, and the board is likely going to need to be asked to make some difficult decisions regarding that.
All right, thank you. To Brian?
You really don't hear much of the Fargo Public Schools in the news, other than the boundary issue. I haven't studied in depth Fargo Public Schools, but I'd say the boundary issue, as one school board member said, as it continues to grow, as evidence of where we live down by Fargo Davies, we're going to have to keep planning and making sure that all of our buildings are full with children, and that we use our resources wisely. And we have to remember that school buildings don't educate children, so we can't get all hung up on certain buildings and things like that. It's people and teachers and students and parents and things like that is what educates our kids. And as Rebecca has said, there's lots of other issues and challenges that we have to also pay attention to as we continue to educate the kids.
All right, thank you. To Robin?
I've been doing this for 13 years as a school board member, and it is the most difficult topic has hands down been boundary changes. It's emotional for everybody, and it needs to be respected. But I'm going to expound on what Rebecca said. We want to do all these great things, but if we don't have funding to do it, then we're not going to improve. If 80%, and it's just short of 80% of our dollars go to staff and benefits, if we're going to have to make cuts or we're going to be flat, we're going to have fewer teachers and we're going to have larger class sizes. If I truly feel that smaller class sizes are the way for students to achieve better academically and socially. With smaller class sizes, you get smaller ratios, you get closer attention, your teachers get to know their students' relations. We are right across the river. They're looking at 30 students per class size. We should be proud that our community supports our public education, but they're not going to support it without communication. And I think that's the number one job for a board member, to be out and communicating with the public the value of the school system that brings to our community. Because if we're not going to do it, I don't know who will.
All right, thank you. So we have time for at least one more question, and we'll see how fast that goes, if we can sneak in another one there. I was just about to play any, mini, miny, mo with the four that we have left here, because they're all really good ones. So I have okay, so it's going to be this one. So many states have seen teachers marching for higher pay and more state support for public education. What is your view on the role of the school board in having competitive salaries and adequate state funding overall? So Rado, we start with you. So what is the role of the school board in having competitive salaries and adequate state funding?
One more time. First part of the question.
Yeah, I can read the whole thing again. So many states have seen teachers marching for higher pay and more state support for public education. What is your view on the role of the school board in having competitive salaries and adequate state funding?
Well, I'm going to improvise here. Definitely would support a very solid structure, compensation structure, geared, just my private opinion, geared towards, let's say, experience, but also valuing achievement. So whether there's a bonus pay to be discussed at the end of the year for students achieving great success in the national, let's say, science Olympiad and stuff like that. These things should be valued, but I would put a lot of value on stability, with progression of salary based on experience. When I worked for the hospital, I don't know if hospital experiences are applicable here, but I personally didn't like the sort of up and down of the salaries geared towards production. I think professions like teachers and doctors should be rewarded in a more steady fashion.
Thank you. To Stacy?
I've been attending the FEA negotiation meetings lately, and I would support paying teachers on the continuing education plus the years of experience. I would also like to see principal evaluations be a component brought in. I would not support paying teachers on student achievement scores or peer evaluations.
Thank you. Abdulwali?
And can you repeat the question one more time,
Yeah,
please?
absolutely. So many states have seen teachers marching for higher pay and more state support of public education. What is your view on the role of the school board in having competitive salaries and adequate state funding overall?
And as we know, the teachers are very important. In order for our kids to succeed, to prepare them for the future, is because of the teachers. And if we take care of our teachers, then our kids will be, they will take care of them well. So, and also I understand that funding issues and how to support the whole school, but I will support and to increase and fund the teachers for higher education.
Thank you. To Jennifer?
So I would say the school board does have a governmental affairs committee that is engaged in this process. It is their, they take on the task of educating our local legislators as to why it is important to continue the level of state funding that we have. And it is always a conversation that we are continually having around competitive salaries. Currently, I believe there's over 200 plus districts in the state of North Dakota, and we're ranked 17. So it is something that is top of mind. We want to remain competitive. Over 60% of our teachers have master's degrees. Continued education is valued at Fargo Public Schools.
Thank you. To Sandra?
I remember when I was in middle school, and my favorite teacher, Mr. Garman, told me that he was learning Spanish. And I was like, well, why are you learning Spanish? He said, because I'm going to get paid a lot more to teach in California, and I'm going to be leaving you guys next year. And that was hard. He was a great teacher, so competitive salaries are really important just so that we don't lose the great teachers we have. I agree with the pay based on experience as well as their continuing education as a teacher. As far as the state funding, making sure that it's adequate for overall, we would need to be the leaders in bringing that issue to our legislators. I think Jen touched on that, but also bringing that to the public forefront in our community so that they know what issues we have with competitive salaries for our teachers or with any sort of state funding that may be being cut.
Thank you. Namal?
As we all know, the measure of our district's success is every K-12 school is gross positive impact and the teacher can have on their life and the community they serve. Every teacher and school employee can play a significant role to their student success. I know we want the best for our children, but for our teacher often lack the resources to create the best learning environment and are not being paid competitive salaries. Our teacher need better support to focus on development, learning environment that are responsive to student and community need. We want our teachers to be able to do the best they can each and every day, and we need to give them the information, the tool, the resources they need to do their works, and we all have to support them. I know that I was on one of those meetings when they actually did on the board, especially on competitive race and everything. And I did agree on experience. If the teacher does have all the experience, why don't we pay them? Because we do not want to lose all the teachers that are best, especially the one that are educating our children to be the best of. Thank you.
Thank you. To Rebecca?
Jennifer mentioned that we do have a government affairs committee that works especially during the legislative session, and Fargo is really one of the leaders in Fargo and West Fargo, actually, in a collaborative effort that reviews the bills that are going on in the legislature, those that are impacting education, obviously much of it in regard to funding, and as kind of serves as a lobbying arm in terms of representing both school districts out to the legislature, and also working to help inform our legislators earlier on before they go into the session about some of the key issues regarding our school districts. I recently attended the North Dakota Council of Educational Leaders put on a school finance workshop, and that was targeted towards legislators, and it explains the funding formula, the per pupil funding formula, that of course that partly has to do with what our funding is for our teachers and where our teacher salaries can go. The negotiations committee works on taking care of our teacher contract negotiations, and that work is being done right now.
Thank you. To Brian?
Funny you left off with teacher negotiations. I spent 20 years going to negotiation seminars for the North Dakota School Boards Association. School board members and superintendents go to those things and learn how to negotiate. To get competitive salaries for teachers, you have to negotiate with teachers and board together collaboratively and come up to some sort of agreement. Thank God we have a law that says teachers can't just march out and leave the kids sitting in North Dakota. To get adequate state funding, of which we do need, because one of the board members said we need to get 70%. We're only at 65.2 right now from the state funds, 29.4 local and 5.4 federally. So in order to have adequate funding, I believe it's important that the North Dakota Council of Educational Leaders, North Dakota School Boards Association, and North Dakota United Education are coming together to the legislature with a plan, and that they're going to fund education, and we're going to do it together.
Thank you. To Robin?
I believe so strongly in paying teachers for continuing education and time spent on the district. I stole the matrix and I use it for my 230 hourly employees. It is very motivating for them and makes them feel safe. I can do that because I control the funds. Fargo School District does not have that ability. You know, we talk about state funding. With the departure of the superintendent and the business manager, a lot of institutional knowledge is leaving the district. This is my biggest gift and my biggest contribution I can make to this board. I chaired the Governmental Affairs Committee for years. When you talk about getting up to 70%, if we told the legislators that, they would tell us to go jump in a lake. They would say, well, then lower your costs. So we need to be careful and we need to be respectful for what our state has already done. Now, of course, the more they do, the more control they have. So I'm also a believer in control closer to the district. So we need to be careful what we ask for there, guys. And I'm going to share a quote that I have on my Facebook page, and I think it applies. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults, by Frederick Douglass. Dollars invested early save us dollars in the long run. That is how I feel is the best way to save taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. And to David.
As an educator for over 35 years, this is something that is very, very near and dear to my heart. Jennifer mentioned that we rank 17th out of approximately 200 districts in North Dakota, which seems very good until you look at the fact that North Dakota ranks about 47th out of 50 states. If you put that together with the fact that the educational teacher education programs are declining in numbers and the demand for excellent educators continues to increase, we really have no alternatives other than to pay our teachers well. And it's very, very difficult because our resources are limited, but we have to get inventive. We have asked, I'm on the negotiating committee this year, and we have asked the teachers to look at putting together a task force with the board on other ways that we may be able to compensate teachers to increase salaries. It's absolutely vital that this happens. We have got to hold on to the excellent teachers that we have now, and we have to encourage new people to go into the profession.
All right, thank you. So that's going to leave us to our closing remarks. Before we do that, I just have a couple of announcements. So one is that the election is on June 12th, so everybody mark your calendars, make note of that. And also that there are 5 open seats on the Fargo School Board. So even though this seemed like a very crowded field here today, just remember there's 5 open seats. So kind of think of that as you are watching the candidates and thinking about who you would like to support. Also on Thursday, we are going to be back here for the City Commission Forum, which is going to be 6 to 8 p.m., so we invite everybody to come back for that. And also, if you're interested in learning more about the League of Women Voters, we have some information on our website, but probably the best way to keep up with us is on our Facebook page. We have information on there on how to become a member of the League of Women Voters, the different events that we're doing, such as candidate forums, but also on Friday, we're going to have our last First Friday event of the season, which is going to be focusing on payday lending and how that is kind of affecting our community. So basically, the first Friday of every month, we pick a different topic and bring in a speaker to talk about that. And I know just from those meetings, I have learned so much about the Fargo School Board from times that we've had education-related topics there. So it's just a great way to learn about some of the issues in our community and how government works and all that really great stuff. So that is going to bring us to our closing remarks. So candidates, you have 1 minute for your closing remark. Stacy, we will start with you. I am just going to add, so some of the questions that we didn't get to, if you would like to work them into your closing remarks, you can. If not, that's okay. So we had some people asking about what's being done to address bullying, concerns about the number of kids, the ratio of students per school counselor, and then also some of the diversity-related questions that we had that we didn't get to were serving English language learner students, LGBTQ students, specifically transgender students, and students with mental health needs. So if you want to work that into your closing remarks, you can, and if not, that's okay too. I just thought I'd throw that out there since we had some questions that didn't get answered.
In a minute or less.
Stacy. Yeah, all in a minute. You can cover that, please.
Wow.
Stacy, go ahead.
I've always been passionate about giving back to our community. I'm very committed to the education of all youth, regardless of backgrounds and ability levels. We live in Fargo because it's a great community and has a phenomenal education and system in place with phenomenal teachers. I'm very thankful my children are attending Fargo Public Schools. I know firsthand the excellent education that our schools provide. I hold education in high regard and want to return the focus back to what is best for all children in the district. I'm committed to keeping our standards high. I want to talk to people, hear their ideas, and listen to feedback. I believe in a great education for every child. I would be honored to serve you on the Fargo Board of Education as a representative of our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. To Abdawali.
My vision and for the future of Fargo is for it to be a place that promotes opportunity and equity and celebrates diversity. And also the goals and objectives that I would like for our community to accomplish for the next 4 years is for our school district to be accountable to our students and parents, to be physically responsible and to be transparent about decision making. And I'm asking for your vote to build a better future for our children together. And thank you for inviting us today and listening. My name is Abdiwali Sharif. Thank you all.
Thank you. To Jennifer.
So I really do believe it is an exciting time for Fargo Public Schools. The last 4 years have been filled with activity, from building Ed Clapp Elementary to the renovation of Eagles, the hiring of a new superintendent, and everything in between. The 4 years have really gone fast. I have been honored to serve on the Fargo School Board, and I am asking for the opportunity to represent your voice for another 4 years. Transparency, trust, and strong leadership. I will continue to place these principles at the forefront of the work we have to do. If reelected, I would continue to be an advocate for always putting students first, fiscal responsibility while maintaining a high quality of education for all students, ensuring a supportive work environment for our teachers, and engagement of the community. I would sincerely appreciate your vote for re-election on June 12th.
Thank you. To Sandra.
I think, like most people, my vision of Fargo's public schools future is one of progress, and I sincerely hope that we accomplish all the goals and objectives that we set in the next few years. The problem is vision changes with time and circumstance, and it takes work, not wishes, to accomplish goals and complete objectives. My vision for Fargo's future is one where elected officials will work hard to see what it is the community wants or needs, and then works hard to build on that. In the next 4 years, I'd like to see the community better informed, better equipped with the tools they need to envision and then build our best possible future. We are not content with the status quo and understand that success can only be achieved through change. Change will foster innovation and development, which are the precursors to greatness. We are nimble and flexible and open to new ideas.
Thank you. Yamal.
I believe every child deserves a better education, support that empower diversity and accountability. My motivation is rooted in my childhood experience in South Sudan. I live in a town that have no educational system. We learn how to read under a tree. I came to United States in 1995 and as 11 years old refugees. Now I'm active in FM area communities as a nonprofit leader to create educational resource for refugees displaced by war. For me, invested in children mean a vibrant future for Fargo and the state of North Dakota. If I am elected to represent you on Fargo School Board, there are a couple of specific issues that I will be focusing on. Student achievement, supporting our schools, save taxes with after-school program, representation and diversities, bullying preventions, and safety school. Building my nonprofit organization, South Sudan Read, has taught me a great deal about working with people with different backgrounds and bringing different ideas to the tables. My goal is to listen and to advocate for the voiceless. I do have a bachelor degree in health education and community health with minor in child development. I am currently pursuing my master in public health. I believe in high academic standard and school accountability. If I am elected, I will work hard to ensure that every dollar benefit our children's education. Student success would remain my priority by working closely with parents, community members, teachers, and other governing boards. As a school board member, I will work to make sure our children receive academic skill, training necessary to prepare for the light and beyond their school year. I'm looking forward hearing your voice ideas to improve our school, our children's school, and I'm ready to fight for Fargo family and making sure that we succeed together as a community and to be able to empower. Thank you.
Thank you. To Rebecca.
Schools support the vitality, health, and security of our neighborhoods. They are one of the most important areas of assets in our community. During my 4 years on the board, the district opened 2 neighborhood elementary schools and an operations center. Ed Clapp Elementary and Eagles Elementary helped to alleviate overcrowding issues in South Fargo. The new operations center helped to facilitate and provide greater efficiencies for multiple district needs, including the central kitchen, print center, maintenance, carpentry, machinery, and supply storage. The district's long-range facility plan, along with its strategic and operational plans, ensures our core elementary schools continue to be maintained and allows the board to make decisions for good stewardship of citizen tax dollars. We are stronger when we hear views different from our own, which is why I welcome diversity, public input, and engagement in a process for decision-making. I look forward to hearing your concerns and sharing with you ideas and solutions for our district. On June 12th, it will be my honor to be your first vote for Fargo School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. To Brian.
I'm going to use my time with things I forgot to say. Made little notes. You know, I have a master's degree also from Northern State University in educational administration. I also have 2 grandchildren that will go to school in Fargo Public Schools. I think working with the city, the parks, and the businesses is going to be very important, and I want that conversation because as we grow, schools need to be included in that talk as well. So, here we are right now today. We're trying to figure out what it is we want that student to look like in 2036. And when I think of that, that puts me at 70, and I hope I'm around to see it, of what that student's going to look like, because I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to be good. So I would appreciate your vote, and on June 12th.
Thank you. To Robin?
Well, it's probably no secret why I'm running for the school board, because my entire life is committed to kids. I'm pretty transparent, and that's pretty easy to find. If I were to want to leave a legacy, I think I would rather, instead of focusing on buildings, I would be focusing on student success, because that is what my goal is as a school board member. And I'm not seeking a term to fix something that's broken. I want to help maintain the excellent education that's being delivered in Fargo Public Schools. Dr. Schatz, with the help of his team and the support of this great board, and board members work really hard. To say that this is easy, you need to follow one of them around every day. They commit hours and hours and hours of time to these schools on their own time. So I think that needs to be admired and respected. I will take a stab at one of the bullying questions. Arlette Preston and I actually wrote the first bullying and harassment policy for Fargo Public Schools. Not saying it's perfect, but it needs to evolve. But remember when we all had to go to those pre-extracurricular meetings and get lectured before sports? You can thank me for that. I think that they've kind of run their course, but Fargo School District was a little bit ahead of its time, and I think that's what we need to continue to do with the Fargo School Board and the Fargo School District.
Thank you. To David?
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us here and giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts with you. And I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your evening to come and share your concerns. I think we all understand the gravity of the vote that's going to occur in June. We, as board members, administer a budget of over $150 million. We are the fourth largest employer in the city. Are we doing a good job? I think we're doing a very good job. Can we do better? Absolutely. One of the things that concerns me is the fact that there are over 100 kids every year who choose as seniors not to complete and graduate. That'll never be acceptable. It is our duty and our responsibility to assure that every single kid who goes through the system graduates choice ready, prepared to go on to post-secondary education, to join the workforce, or to enter the military. Those are now state initiatives. And I have been very honored to serve the last 4 years on the board, and I hope that you choose to vote for me so I can continue what we've started. Thank you.
Thank you. To Rado?
It's a privilege to speak last, but this is just a coincidence. Thank you to the League, to our wonderful moderator, I'll get the name right, and to you, persevering audience. This is amazing. And to great candidates. I feel we are competing in some way, but also collaborating and forging vision for the community. I wish there was a approval voting that they talked about in the city commission, so that all could get it. But barring that, and in the absence of that, I sincerely ask for your vote. I would like to serve everybody without exception, have the welfare of the students and teachers foremost in my mind, promote educational achievement, excellence, and wellness, yes, a few other things on the side. But thank you so much for this evening and asking for your vote.
All right. Thank you. Please join me in thanking the candidates for being with us this evening.